Welcome to Chop Chop Motors. My name is Clay, and we're going to do episode video on the Vortic truck. So we haven't done a ton on it of late, and we got to make up for lost time. So let's get this thing. Let's see if we can get this thing started today. That's the plan. Here we go. So where we left off was all the tune-up stuff on the motor. The truck was 6-volt positive ground, and we're gonna flip this thing over to do a 12-volt negative ground, and I'm gonna get a wiring kit for it and rewire the whole truck. So it really is not, it's no big issue. I mean, I was already gonna have to rewire the truck. So rewiring at 12 volt negative ground is not a big deal. The starter doesn't care. It's just going to zing over a lot faster. It's going to be happy. The windings are big in these starters, so unless you stand on it and grind on it for 5 minutes, the starter's going to be just fine. We'll change over the coil. We'll put a ballast resistor in it for the ignition. And yeah, there's going to be a few other things we're going to have to change. We'll probably put well, I don't know what we're going to do on the generator. We'll either do a 12 volt generator or we'll go to a 12 volt alternator. We'll kind of play that by ear after we see which one is going to kind of make the changeover the easiest. So let's start switching some stuff out. Here's what we've done so far. I pulled the Optima battery out of the 64, one of the downsides to parking close to the project truck. So swapped out the battery, put the 12 volt battery in it, changed it to negative ground with the cables, took off the solenoid, which was acting super finicky, 6 volt one, and put a 12 volt Motorcraft solenoid out of the special parts box, and put an external ground from the motor to the body, which didn't seem to exist. Now that doesn't mean it didn't function all that time without one, but we want to make sure that everything works just at an optimal level. So now we should be able to get it to crank over triggering the solenoid. So you should be able to see the solenoid. So now I checked it. It is in neutral. We'll just give it a quick. Right, that is success. So spins over nice and fast. As you may have been able to hear, it's got compression on every cylinder. You can hear how even it runs through its revolutions. So the discerning ear can actually tell when it's got a dead hole, no compression, because it'll have a little hitch in its giddy up. So we sound good. We're in a good place. Now we press on. All right, progress. Changed the 6 volt coil to a 12 volt coil. It pays to have a inventory of ancient parts to be able to lean on to do something like this. So we changed that coil, made a new lead to go from the distributor to the coil because the other one was pretty tattered, and we're rewiring the truck, so all of that stuff needs to be replaced. That coil is dropped in. I pulled the motor up to top dead center to make sure that all the plug wires were in the right order. They were. Everything looks like it was in good shape. I'd had all of the wires and the cap and everything off, and you never know what gets moved around through the course of a vehicle's life. So that's been replaced. I lubricated the distributor while I had access to it, so that's nice. That's not something that typically gets done very often. The little oilers on the side of the shaft pretty close to the base. So that's been done. Then I hooked hot wire to the battery and to the coil and put my starter switch on it to see if it had spark, and it absolutely has spark, so we're in good shape there. The other piece that is required when you go to 12 volt is a ballast resistor, so I will grab a ballast resistor and we'll wire it in before I try to start it, just to make sure everything's good. So it's time to see if this thing's gonna run. I filled the float bowl up with fuel. Looks like I may have overfilled it a little bit, but it should have some fuel in it. I've got an oil pressure gauge sitting right here, so we can make sure that nothing's getting hurt on the first start. I'm pretty confident that everything's good, but let's not assume. I am going to hook up. I am going to hook up the ballast resistor. And starter. I'm going to hook up power to the ballast resistor. So we're going to do a little test if it starts. So that would be how it would be powered if once it's wired up correctly. So the power, when it's running, runs through the ballast resistor, and then it goes to the distributor. Sorry, I'm kind of thinking out loud, so sorry, I'm slowing down. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to go from the exciter wire on the starter solenoid to the hot wire on the coil. If everything works like in theory it should, we should have fire in the hole. So let's see if it's going to work. That's a good sign. Oh, it doesn't like that. It doesn't like that excite. So that ballast resistor might have too much resistance. That's what's causing that. Okay. So we'll hook direct to see if it'll start. All right. So now we're going 12 volts to the coil. We'll see if that works. Let's give it a little more fuel and see if we can get one more little run. Sure sounds good. Okay. Oh, that sounds so good. A little bit of smoke out the back. Okay, unhooked all the ballast resistors and all that stuff. Spin this over here. So basically what that does is that just takes us one step closer on this little truck. So it's running on 12 volt. We'll get the right ballast resistor. I thought that was the right ohms of resistance, but obviously it's not. So we'll get a ballast resistor ordered for it. The way that works is they start on 12 volts, and then it reduces down to about 9 once it's running. So after the key's off, it reduces down to 9. So the points are more than capable of taking that. But if you run it on 12 volts for an extended period of time, it will finally burn up the points. So we don't want to do that. Sounds really good. Carburetor seems to work excellent. That's nice. We'll get, the next step will be to hook up some radiator hoses and test the water pump. We'll put some coolant in it and make sure we don't have any leaks, and make sure we don't have to pull anything apart there. And that'll be good. But I think at this point we're pretty much in a home run kind of state for that part. And now we'll take it to the next piece on the list, which I think is order up a wiring harness for it. So now that we've got this part done, we're super happy with it. We can kind of close out this portion and go to the next phase. And I think that's a welcome sight. We'll get to the electrical and changing over the alternator and doing all that. And I think that's it for this segment. Kind of a long time since we saw the last update, but that's it for this segment. We got to the milestone I was looking for, and I'm super happy with it. Play for Chop Shop Motors, and we'll see you on the next project.